Hello everyone, and thanks for watching. My name is Marco, and this is the second video in a short series summarizing the Veritaseum VeADIR test platform. Last time we reviewed the summary page, which you're viewing now, and where we left off, we reviewed each of the various components on here. One point of clarification I would like to make: I incorrectly stated that notifications were for every account. Notifications are limited to just your own specific account. So these are actually my exposures here that have been created. And so we can look at these actually. And if you click on that, it takes you where in the app that exposure was acted on. In this case, it was in the rent portion of the app, and it's an open exposure I have in there. If we come back to the latest notifications and look at one of these other ones, let's take a peek at this one. We'll see when we click that, it actually takes us to the exposure screen directly and to that specific exposure. So just I guess kind of a quick way to get around in the app. One set of feedback I may provide back to Veritaseum is it'd be helpful if we could tell if that was for rent or for just exposure directly or whatever. But anyway, pretty handy little feature there. Okay, so the rent facility, rent beta, is located under the menu. Again, we have the currency selector here. I like to view things in Ethereum as my base currency. So if I go ahead and take the second selection there, this takes me over to the rental facility. Now, all the screens are similarly laid out. There's different informational panels on here. So let's just kind of take these one at a time here. Across the top, again, we've got the standard header bar with my specific test account, in this case, information up here. I've got just over 7 Ethereum in the test account and 0.4 Veri, which are currently worth 0.159 Ethereum. We've got my actual wallet address, and then again the notification bell up there. And so if we look through these various parts of the screen here, on the left upper panel here are any open offers, existing proposals to rent Veri tokens that have not been accepted yet. So in a minute I'm going to display or explain how to actually open an offer, and we'll see one show up out there. Directly under that are any offers that I have either open or expired in this case. And if I wanted, I could go clean up this old offer and get rid of it. These are just offers that were put up for rental but not accepted by anyone. Once the duration of the offer ends, or once the expiration date, of the offer ends, it expires, and it would show up here unless you delete it. Now, you can take a look at the history here. You can see that the rentee, in this case that was me, the rentee added the offer. That was about a month ago. And again, you can go out to the Etherscan summary screen of that actual transaction and view the transaction itself. Shifting over to the right hand side, we've got recent rentals, and recent rentals in this case are across the entire platform. So these are the rentals that have taken place within the beta environment. This is one I just did a few minutes ago, and actually you can see the corresponding part of that, the open exposure, which in this case is actual purchases of exposures, exposures being to the VeADIR's assets that have been made by the VeADIR financial machine on my behalf. So I've got one open exposure out there right now, and it happens to be this one that I offered. So I was both parties on this particular exposure. And so, and then across the bottom will be closed exposures. Once this particular exposure here, which has 29 days and change remaining, finishes, it'll come down here and have a record of my closed out exposures. So again, over here you can look at the history on the individual transaction or the individual exposure. In this case, you can see I opened it about an hour ago, and it was collected by the VeADIR about an hour ago. And we can kind of confirm that if we go take a look back on the main summary screen with the VeADIR. We can see up here in the upper right hand corner where about an hour ago I put up, I accepted the rental offer, which was worth 1 Ethereum and had with it the requisite 0.01 Veri. The VeADIR then took that 1 Ethereum and bought a little over 1 Veri, just under 7 Populous, and 145 PayPi. So going back to the rental screen, the exposure that I opened here was just that composite that we just looked at, the Veri, the PPT, and the PPP. And so you can watch your exposures as they go, and then once they get to a state where they've closed, we can go take a look at one of these other ones. This is again just somebody else out on the platform. The steps here would be you open the exposure, it's collected by the VeADIR, and the exposure positions are opened, and then it's closed at the end. And so if we then want to go ahead and offer up, put an offer in for the Veri, to offer up the Veri, and an important point to note, you've got to also fund it with the associated Ethereum. And so in this case, I'm going to put the max in. Notice that during the beta period, which we're in now, there's a minimum of 0.001 Veri required, which would equate to 1/10 of an Ethereum, and 0.01 Veri, which will require 1 full Ethereum to fund this particular offer. So in this case, I'll put in the max, 0.01 Veri, and let's make this one actually a little bit pricier than that last one, because that last guy, maybe he's getting off too easy with 15%. Again, we want to make this one 30 days. What we're seeing in some of the early beta tests, the shorter duration time periods, it's more difficult to make a profit on those exposures, because first of all, you've got overhead on the after the 5% buy-in, and then that's a relatively short time to be exposed to those particular assets. So anyway, trying for something a little longer now. The beta limit on duration is up to 30 days. So we'll go ahead and do that. And in this case, if you just leave this blank, it will never expire. And then you can just cancel it manually, or you can do any combination. If I said in this particular case, whoops, I can't. Okay, I'll just say 30 days as well. So in 30 days, actually, let me just try. I should be able to take 38. Okay, yeah. So 38 days. If nobody accepts the offer in 38 days, it will expire on approximately February 28th this year. So before I hit submit on here, what I do want to do, just this is a bit of a more advanced technique some people may choose to take advantage of, is I'll come out to Ether gas station over here, and we want to just take a quick peek here and see what the current recommended gas prices are. In this case, it's 30 for standard and fast. And so when I hit submit, this is going to activate MetaMask, which is a requirement for participation in the beta at this time. So if you want to get in on the beta, get a hold of Veri, of Reggie. You'll have a minimum requirement of Veritaseum you'll have to demonstrate, and then from a technical perspective, you'll need to install MetaMask and have it connected up to your ETH accounts. So when I click submit, please confirm you're about to submit an order to Veritaseum Rent app. By confirming the transaction, you are sending the specified amount of Ether and Veri from your MetaMask wallet to the rental contract. Your order will be visible shortly in the My Offers table after it has been included on the blockchain. You can cancel your orders by clicking on the trash can icon in the My Offers table. Once your order is matched, a VeADIR exposure is opened. You can view your exposures in the Open Exposures table. Once the exposure is closed, it'll be moved to the Closed Exposures table. And then finally, in order to settle a closed exposure and withdraw your funds, you got to click on the dollar icon and go through the settlement process. And they're just making a note, these steps do require that you have gas available, will be consumed. So as we're seeing here, the app right now coming up with a GUI of 4, so that's a little different than what gas station is. Oh, okay, so it's adjusted. I needed to refresh. They're saying standard, so good job again, Reggie's dev team, on acting on the dynamic gas setting. Perfect example. You guys nailed it again. So let me get back here to my screen. I'm just going to add one GUI on so that we can get this through a little bit faster. And so from here, just the normal process of doing an Ethereum transaction. And so you'll see it now showed up over here. There's the 30-day exposure at 18%. This is the offer that I just submitted and opened up myself. And so that's it from an offering perspective.